Yo, what is good, my kick and bass crew? Today I'm going to be doing a breakdown of my track Dive In, which is the first track on my label Trace Amounts. So it's a very special track for me. And this breakdown video is also very special because it's going to be the last video I record in the apartment that I'm in now. I don't know if you can see. It's a bit of a mess, packing a bunch of stuff up, but I'm moving next week. And yeah, it's a bit emotional because I started kicking bass on this desk, recording all the videos here. So it's the last one that's coming from my old apartment, but I'm super excited. I'm gonna have a new setup at the new place, and it's gonna be super special. We're gonna have it a little bit better production value. So enjoy this last one while you can. And yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, this is my track Dive In. And the idea originally started, I would say, almost a year ago, in the fall/winter of 2022. I had an instrumental idea and I kind of shelved it for a while. It was a song I was playing a lot of my shows. And I needed a song to start my label. And I thought, I actually didn't have much to work with, and I was like, let's use this one. So after around 8 months or so, I got an amazing vocalist, Notel, to do a top line on top of this. So we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the vocals. But yeah, let me show you guys what the track sounds like. So I'll play the first breakdown build up into the drop, and then we'll start going through all the different groups and channels, and I'll show you guys everything that's going on in this project. So this is what it sounds like.
Let's drop. Now don't stop, all gas, no pedal. Switched up. Now don't stop, all gas, no pedal. On top. Now don't stop, all gas, no pedal. Dive in, go off, go metal. Don't stop, all gas, no pedal. Tick tock. Now don't stop, all gas, no pedal. Off clock. Now don't stop, all gas, no pedal. Bass drop. Now don't stop, all gas, no pedal. Dive in, go off, go metal. Don't stop, all gas, no pedal.
All right, cool. So that's the track. Let's go to the lead sound. So we have a lot of different muted channels in here because I think I was trying out a ton of stuff. So I apologize for being so messy. I believe this is the main sound. Yeah. So if we look at the MIDI here, before we get into the sound design, you can see it's all kind of focused on G sharp, and it kind of matches what we have going on with the bass. So the bass MIDI, let's pull up the bass. The bass MIDI is very similar. If I were to take the bass line patch and plug this in here, let's listen. Let me move this up. You can see it's very similar. It has a lot of these like triple notes. They're just kind of moved a little bit differently. It doesn't really go up to these F sharp notes. But yeah, so let's look at the patch itself. But yeah, the pattern, again, it has a lot of swing too. You can see these notes are not, a lot of them are not hitting perfectly on the grid. I guess that one's off, but these ones are. And an important thing to remember here is this long note is being held. And what I'm doing is I'm actually turning on an arpeggiator. And that you can see that automation here so that the arpeggiator only goes on during these long sustained notes. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm trying to create a MIDI pattern that would be kind of hard to draw in myself. And to demonstrate this, I'll make a new MIDI channel. And I'll set the input to original, which is this one, and we're gonna record this MIDI so you can really see what the arpeggiator is doing. So let me just record. Okay, cool. So you can kind of see, even though this is one sustained note, because of the settings that we're going to have this arpeggiator at, it actually creates 3 notes here. And on this one, it creates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if we were to zoom in here, this kind of pattern, it's totally off the grid. It's not synchronized or quantized at all. And that's because if we look at the arpeggiator, and let me open up the arpeggiator automation, this is the rate. So the rate here is starting at 499 milliseconds, and then it's cutting to 331 here, and it's just following this like curve down, and that's creating that like speeded up effect right here. Dun, 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 dun. That's all coming from the arpeggiator. So I thought that would be cool to have something that's not so like robotic, like on the grid sounding, and I achieved that with the arpeggiator. I do believe. Let me listen over here. Arpeggiator, free rate. Yeah, so this is why the notes look a little bit different. You can see here, it's actually just goes 499 to 331 and then kind of stays there. It goes down to 290, but I think it's supposed to be like a flat line. And then on this one, that's where you're going to get more notes because we're going to a faster rate. So a faster rate would be more sounds in that held note versus a slower one, which is only going to be 1, 2, 3 notes. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all kind of coming in at the end because that's when the automation comes in. So that explains like the melody of the notes and the rhythm. And now I'm going to show you guys like what the patch sounds like. So it's a preset. This is a chord preset. So you can see that the first oscillator is set to 0 semitones, which means if you play a note on C, it's going to sound like C. If you put on this oscillator, if you play a note on C, it's not going to be C. It's going to be 7 semitones up, whatever that is. So that's going to create a chord because we have 2 oscillators playing 2 different notes. So a chord is just 2 notes being played at once. And these are both like saw-ish sounding waves with a little bit of noise layered on top. So let's listen. There's an envelope that's affecting this filter here, so it's kind of opening it up. So that's like the raised up sound. That's the low sound. Together it creates a chord. The preset has a little bit of delay, a little bit of reverb, a little bit of EQ, whatever, blah, blah, blah. This comes from Deceiver Volume 5, so you can check out this preset in more depth if you want to, if you have that pack. And there's some automation going on, which is super important. So I am automating the cutoff of the filter. That's going to help create movement across the sound because it's a very simple melody. So we need to use automation to make that sound more unique. So you can kind of see as this filter opens up more, it lets in more frequencies and it builds like some excitement here. So I just kind of like randomly drew this, but if I were to like, let's say, delete all this, it's a lot more boring versus this. It's almost creating like call and response just by having the automation open up in certain points and then like kind of go down after that. So that's the only automation on the synth. And then processing wise, we have soothe. So that's what it's cutting out, just a little bit of harshness there. We have some EQ rolling off some lows, tapering the highs a little bit. We have wider, making the sound a bit wider. And then we have a bit of sidechain. Not a lot, right? Like the bass line had 95%. This is at 35%, just so that it ducks a little bit with the kick, but we're not completely losing the sound every quarter note with the kick. That's pretty much it for the lead sound. Yeah, I think I was playing around with different patches. I think what happened was I actually lost like the original sound, so I had to like go back and recreate it, and so I was like having trouble. But like I couldn't figure out why, and I realized it wasn't a chord. So that's what all these other channels are kind of doing here, but you can see they're all pretty much muted except for the original. So that's the lead synth. That goes up to a bus with just a little bit more rolling off on the EQ. and a track spacer, which is a plugin that helps to sidechain this sound to the vocal so that when they're both playing, there's not as much clash.
Don't stop. Now don't stop. All gas, no pedal. Don't stop. Now don't stop. All gas, no pedal.
So you can kind of see, while as the vocal plays,
Don't stop.
it cuts down a little bit of the lead sound.
Now don't stop. All gas, no pedal. Don't stop. Now don't stop. All gas.
So it brings down the volume a little bit so that that vocal has space in the mix. If you're playing a vocal on top of a very heavy like synth lead or something like that that takes up a lot of frequencies, this can be a really good technique. So I use this a lot, track spacer. That's pretty much it for the sounds and the drops. The only other sounds we're going to talk about are going to be these miscellaneous synths, and then we'll talk about the vocals in the breakdown. So these are just kind of, think of this as like ear candy. So I have like this sound right here. It's just like a little weird FME synth stab in the key of G sharp. I just go to Splice, I look up random sounds in key, and I just kind of play around with ones that I like. So in the context of the mix, it sounds like this. You can see it's kind of like off the grid as well, so it's not perfectly synced up. It has a nice swingy effect. This was something that Sid actually told me when I showed him the song. He was like, he sent me a little video with him playing a melody, and I was like, wow, that sounds really good. Just to help give it a little more like call and response. So if we listen here. So it's a little bit of like a scale, kind of working our way down the scale, and then it goes to like one held note. And I picked a sound here. It took me a while to find the right sound, but I feel like I wanted something not so aggressive because the lead sound is very like bitey and digital sounding. So I wanted something a little bit like softer. So this is like a sine wave kind of sound. And that just happens every 8 bars, and it's the same thing. And I just did a little bit of endless smile just to create some reverb. You can hear that reverb slightly like stay on afterwards. A little bit of widening, a little bit of rolling off. Is there any automation on the synth sound as well? It looks like it. Let's see what this is doing. Yeah, it looks like there's just some automation on some of these mod macros over here. These are really great things to just like play with to create automation, because it's kind of like designed by the person who made the synth to affect the sound. So why not just tweak them a little bit so that it's not the same sound as you play your melody. And then here we have like the second 8 bars. So there's a little bit more synth stuff going on. So we have this sound. I think this is resampled, but I put some sidechain and some delay. I think this one is using manipulator. I don't know why, but I think I don't know why I have 2 layers here, but it's more of like a sustained background kind of like horn sound, and then yeah, that's pretty much it, just to add some context. So
Switch. Don't stop. Now don't switch. Don't stop. Now don't stop.
I don't know. I felt it didn't get in the way of the other synth, and it kind of like created a bit more excitement after 8 bars. So that's why I added that one in. That's pretty much it for the drop sounds. So yeah, that's Dive In. It was the first track on my label. Hopefully you guys like this tutorial. This is the last one for my apartment, so it's bittersweet, but I'm really excited to show you guys the new setup as well. And I hope you have a lovely day. Peace out.